Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now today I wanted to talk about the state of the market overall. I know that there's a lot of fear going on within the market generally. I'm not even going to show the fear and greed chart today because we already know what it's at. And so one thing I wanted to ask before we get started with the video is, are you guys scared of what's going on in the market? And if so, why? I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments on if you are scared, if so, why, and maybe if there's anything I could do to, help you with kind of rationalizing some of those fears. Now, again, don't get me wrong, like I have no idea where the market's going to go, right? Like, I mean, we could be at a $10,000 Bitcoin tomorrow. I mean, I don't think that's the case, but it could, right? Like if we have some sort of black swan event and we get, thrust into the new Great Depression, all this stuff, I can tell you what, it's not going to be great for our crypto bags, right? And so, that does remain a possibility. And considering some of the economic data we're seeing, maybe a Great Depression is, overblowing it a little bit, but like given some of the recent economic data we've been seeing, like it is a real possibility. So that can't really be ruled out. And so, if you are concerned, like please feel free to drop them in the comments below, and I'd be happy to kind of address some of those. Also, I'd be interested to know kind of when a lot of my viewers kind of joined in the crypto market. Like, is this kind of your first major pullback? Have you been here since 2014 and seen more pullbacks than you can count? Kind of where are you guys at in terms of like experience within the crypto market? Because also, I think that would help me in terms of tailoring some of my content to helping some of that as well. So let's go in and look at a couple charts to start, and then we can kind of go over maybe some other final thoughts on the market and just kind of where we're at so far. So overall, I wanted to start out, like I said, we're skipping the fear and greed chart today. Spoiler alert, we're still in fear. Nothing crazy. But with the historical volume, I wanted to pull this up because I think there's a lot of sentiment. Not only is there fear, but there's also a sense of boredom, right? And a sense of maybe despair in a sense. Because, I think all of us have probably come to the conclusion that there's not a lot that's going to be happening in the near future, at least on the upside. I think that's pretty clear overall, just kind of based on where we're at. I think anything before November is probably unrealistic, though, again, anything remains possible, but it's probably unrealistic. And so I think there's just a general sense that people are kind of getting bored and going away, right? And I think that's fair to see here with the volume, right? Like what was this? The absolute peak was, the 5th of March. And basically ever since the 5th of March, we've seen just a complete downward trend in average volume since then. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Obviously the volume will come back when crypto starts to go up again. But for right now, there's just a lot of fear, boredom, uncertainty. For a lot of people who can't handle like the volatility and the uncertainty, they just kind of go away, right? Because it's one of those things where sometimes for people trading in a market like this it's just too stressful, and it just doesn't really bode super well for them. So I understand it. I'm obviously not knocking people if this is something that's a little bit difficult to handle and to stomach while we're in this type of market. But I do think there is something to be said for those who do stick it out, and usually those are the ones who make the greatest gains, is because they have the gumption to be able to stick into a market that is otherwise relatively boring and just kind of sucks, right? Like it's a lot easier to lose money than it is to make money in this market. And this market kind of separates the men from the boys, so to speak, in that sense. Because obviously when everything is going up, everyone looks like a genius. It's not really that hard to look like a genius there. So one thing I wanted to mention in terms of kind of making money in this market is Margex. So I've been trading on Margex, as I mentioned in the past couple of videos. It's a really nice leverage exchange. I've been doing relatively well with it because you can do so much leverage. Here you can see, you can do 100x leverage on Bitcoin and Ethereum. You got 25x on Caspa, 50x on Litecoin, ADA, Solana. You can trade with some pretty decent like leverage amounts. And the thing that's nice about trading with leverage is right now, even though the market is really boring and some of these moves are from like a spot bags type perspective, pretty inconsequential. When you're playing something like this on 100x leverage, this will get you 1, 2, 3, 4, 500%, depending on kind of where you go out on this run up or subsequent run down if you decide to short the market. I usually don't short the market too much just because I'm still trying to kind of get the hang of it. I usually do better with longs, but what we can see is, I have taken a couple of trades here. So we can see, all of these, I believe I took today. So, we did 108%, longing Bitcoin, 79% longing ETH, 113 longing Bitcoin, and then another 141 longing ETH. So, it is possible, and I think a lot of this was just from kind of catching the wicks down here. But you could see whenever you start to see wicks like this, that there's kind of a lot of support to the downside here. And so usually I'll try and catch a wick and take a long, wait till it starts to kind of peter out at the top, and then cut it. So that's usually what I try to do. And like I said, it's worked out so far. We are trading on hard mode right now. This market is definitely very difficult. If you can play the downs as well as the ups, it does make it a little bit easier. Ultimately, I mean, you can see, honestly, a lot of the trading that I do here, I don't actually have super fancy, like, TA and all this stuff done. Like, a lot of it's just playing support and resistance levels, right? Like, you can see right here, this is a really strong support and resistance level. So, if something were to come up to here, either on the downside or the upside, this would be a good place to long or short accordingly. So same thing here. This is a good support level. This is turning out to be a relatively decent support / resistance level. So, it is something where you can learn it, but we are definitely trading on hard mode, right? We can't just 100x long Bitcoin and, make 10,000% in the next 2 weeks because Bitcoin only goes up. Like, I do believe that there will be a point in which that comes, but that right now is not that time. So anyway, moving on, I wanted to move back to the liquidation map. This is something that I'm probably going to start covering in almost every video, even if it's like a market related video or not, just because I do think this is super valuable, just kind of keeping tabs on what we're doing with liquidations. So as we can see in my recent video, we could see that everything was very skewed towards liquidating shorts. We can see right now, on the 1 day time frame, it actually has kind of balanced a little bit. So we are kind of more at I would say more of a balanced market, which again, it's kind of rough because it's harder to get a read on where it's going to go, right? So, I mean, obviously it still is favored towards liquidating shorts, which means moving the market to the upside. But I mean, as we can see, so these lines sticking up here are essentially like the volume of what would be liquidated at this level. So we can see, coming down to about 55,250, this would wipe a pretty big wall of leverage right here. So I do think a move down in this area is probably just as likely as a move up to maybe like a 57,800-ish range. Again, there's a huge wall of leverage that would get wiped here as well. So, this is something just to kind of keep an eye on. 7 day, we still are very skewed, towards liquidating shorts. 30 day, same, even more skewed, liquidating shorts, same type of thing. But again, it's really hard to say, especially when we don't kind of have confluence between all three. We kind of have two of the three. Maybe you could say this one because it technically is skewed towards shorts, but I don't know. This doesn't look as clear cut as I normally would like to see it. But I do think we, based on what we're seeing, like we can expect to see a move up at some point in the next couple of days. Granted, I don't expect this to be a sustained move, but I do think this is a move that we could see just because there is so much pessimism in the market right now. And usually, even if it's just a fake move to wipe leverage, like I do think that is something that we could see, I don't know, maybe a couple days, week, 2, something like that. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is the target rate probabilities for the 18th of September meeting, which is here in now 13 days. So we are getting close. The rates have kind of fluctuated pretty consistently. You can see, the 1st of August, this was after kind of the poor inflation data, the yen carry trade unwind, all of that type of stuff. We could see it was looking almost certain to be about a 0.5% rate cut. Now we're sitting at like roughly 50-50 between, actually closer to 60-40 between a 1/4 point and then a 0.5 point. So it's hard to say what we're going to see here, whether it's, between a 1/4 and a 0.5. It sounds like some of the employment data is coming out a lot softer than what was expected. So if that is actually true, then that would obviously push us much further toward the 0.5%. And as I've kind of mentioned before on the channel, if we do see this 0.5% rate cut, that could actually spook the market further, particularly if it's somewhat unexpected, because then that means the central bank thinks things are worse than we may perceive them to be, which usually invokes a little bit of panic, at least in the short term in the market. So, I don't think it would be like a bad thing long term. I actually think it would be a good thing long term for the prices of crypto, but we do need to bear in mind that, especially when we're already in such a shaky market, this could easily push crypto prices down, the entire market. I'm talking market wide, 10-15% potentially, if things get really out of hand. So that's something to keep in mind. One thing I do wanted to refer to is the Bitcoin halving chart. Again, as we've seen, all the best is yet to come historically. that's kind of, what it's looking like. Obviously, this one was a little bit of an exception, but we are still at the point in the cycle that we've seen previously where not a whole lot is happening, right? So even though this is actually kind of going down, and these were kind of holding steady a little bit, you have to remember, at this point, $740, previous all-time high was $1,000. It's actually even higher than that, I think. It was like $1,100. Same thing here. Prices were, at this point, $10,000. Previous all-time highs were like, what, 20? Yeah, 19. So we nailed all-time highs before the halving even happened. And so the fact that we're pulling back 10, 20, 30, even 40%, I mean, we're kind of getting down to the point where these would have been anyway compared to their previous all-time high. So this pullback, I would say, isn't super concerning just because we had, such a strong run up even before the halving. And so that kind of has thrown off the math a little bit. Also, we can't underestimate the Fed, right? The Fed is very important. Economic data is very important. Macroeconomic conditions and environment, that is all very important. So, if something gets kind of thrown off a little bit on the macro scale, I don't know that it would call it off. It may just delay it and push it towards middle to late 2025, which honestly, if I had to assign a percentage to it, again, not financial advice, you got to make your own decisions, do your own research, all that good stuff. But, if I had to assign a percentage to it, I would almost say it's in my opinion, probably 60-40 that we actually see Bitcoin run-ups and the crypto kind of blow off top. If it is to happen, I actually would probably put it 60-40 that it happens in late 2025 and 40 that it happens in early 2025. So, while it could be a couple months away, I'm kind of thinking it's more likely at this point that it's more like a year away. But again, I don't know, that's just my opinion, and I could be really right. I could be really wrong. It's obviously too soon to tell, and time will tell that for us. So anyway, hopefully the information in this video was helpful. Hopefully, if you are scared, this did help at least a little bit. It helped maybe ease some of your fears. This is part of the process. I would be lying if I was saying I wasn't a little bit scared. Granted, I'm not acting out of fear at all, because I do have a pretty unshakable faith in the fact that crypto is an innovative and revolutionary technology, and regardless of what happens short term, long term it's going to be very beneficial. These types of moves scare me, especially when trading on leverage and things like that. It's a risky game to play, but also you just have to have faith in the technology. And that's the thing that I tell people every single time is if you're scared, just rest easy in the fact knowing that this technology is the future, in my opinion. This is the internet in the early 2000s, right? There obviously during the dot-com bubble and during all, great financial crisis, all this other type of stuff, I'm sure there was a lot of fear surrounding a lot of these new hot tech companies because there was fear in the overall market, right? But overall, the technology was such that it couldn't be argued with. And I think crypto is that same type of thing. Obviously, there are some questionable things and projects and whatnot going on within the crypto space, but that doesn't change the underlying fact that crypto itself is very promising, and I do think a truly revolutionary technology. And so as long as you keep that unshakable faith and you're not overexposing yourself, more importantly, then it's fine. Just wait. You can wait out the storms. You only lose money when you sell, right? And so if you do have a truly unshakable faith in crypto, in the market, then just ride it out and take it as an opportunity to buy. Obviously, you got to do your own research, and it could be a right decision, it could be a wrong decision. Nobody knows, but wait a couple years and I guarantee you'll find out. So anyway, if you did find the information in this video useful, please do like and subscribe. It really does help me out. I still am a growing channel, and so I'm trying to get more reach within the YouTube algorithm. And so interaction on my videos does really, really help me out. So if you do that, I would really appreciate it. Also, as I mentioned earlier in the video, if you would, want to interact with me, leave me a comment. I'd love to hear both if you guys are scared, also as well as kind of when you guys were introduced into the market. Are you here kind of with this most recent run up? Have you been here for multiple cycles? Where are you guys at on that? So, I'd love to hear from you guys on that, and maybe we could talk a little bit more about how we're all feeling in this market. So anyway, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you in the next video.